Hello, LVFL universe. Welcome to week 2 of the longest running, league-oriented fantasy football podcast, The Cap. The only way they're going to catch up is if we slow down, and you know that's not going to happen. Last week in week 1, we had 4 blowouts and 1 thriller. Wasn't decided until 3.5 minutes left in overtime. And in week 2, we've had a bunch of close games, 4 of them. That always makes for a more exciting fantasy football week. There were also some players that came crashing back to earth after monster performances last week, and others that kept that performance rolling. We'll cover that in the highlights, and we'll also pass out some cheese to the Offensive Player of the Week, the Offensive Snub of the Week, and also Pete's Troll of the Week. Stay tuned for that. So without further ado, let's get into week 2's action, beginning with the game of the week. It was Juan Guzman and his Orange Crush facing Northern kid Jared Kobasic. Jared got the action started on Thursday night with 3 of his Redskins starters. And that's a red flag when you got 3 Redskins on your team. That makes for a long, long season. But at least this time they give you points. J.D. McKissick in unfamiliar territory. We call that an end zone, J.D. 10 yards, this touchdown for 15.3 points. And scary Terry McLaurin, incredible how he produces considering where he's playing. 11 receptions, 107 yards, a touchdown for 16.7 points. And Jared, you would have thought that Washington defense would have given you more than 4.6 points, but that's what they gave you. We go to Sunday, and Juan was not buying any of that Jameis Winston Kool-Aid. He keeps Jameis on the bench, releases Baker Mayfield, picks up Terry Bridgewater, and Bridgewater goes for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 21.9 points. You stuck with Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke the Freak only had 3.9 points last week, but this week he finds pay dirt, puts in 71 yards, and gives you 15.7 points. And Nick Chubb, maybe the most underrated running back in the league. With all those big names over there in Cleveland, he could get lost in the shuffle. But Nick Chubb, 95 yards, a touchdown, and 15.8 points. Jared has Mike Evans. Since he came into the league, he is the most targeted receiver / tight end in the red zone. And he shows you why here. 5 receptions, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns for 19.5 points. None of Juan's receivers blew up, but that's okay because they were consistent. Julio the Machine Jones in his new home over there in Tennessee. He comes away with 6 receptions, 128 yards for 12.8 points. And T. Higgins strikes again for 10 points. Juan also has the homer kicker Brandon McManus. He put in 3 for 3 for field goals, 2 for 2 for extra points for 13 points. Going into Monday night, Jared was down 33 points. He still had the mini goat and Mason Crosby left to go. They were playing the Detroit Lions in Lambeau. Rodgers was going to need at least 4 touchdowns. That coupled with the yards he accumulates and the extra points put in by Mason Crosby, that would seal the deal for him. In the first quarter, the tip to Aaron Jones. Is that a rushing touchdown or a passing touchdown? It scored a passing touchdown. So check touchdown number 1 for Aaron Rodgers. In the second quarter, this is where Aaron Rodgers ran into some trouble. Aaron Jones falls just short of the goal line. 2nd and goal is where it ends for Aaron Rodgers. But they go play action, and he's got his 2nd passing touchdown. Jared gets a huge break with the play call from the half-yard line on 2nd and goal. Juan throws his TV out the window. I know because it landed in my lap. He can't believe it. Later on, Minigoat hits Robert Tonyan, second cousin to Jay Sternberger, for his 3rd passing touchdown of the game. Jared down only 8 points. In the 4th quarter, Minigoat seals the deal. This one to Aaron Jones, the real Aaron if you ask me, puts the game away and completes the comeback for Northern Kid. Juan, another devastating loss in week 2. I know you were nervous though. I would have been Aaron Rodgers on Monday night with the Lions at home. That had 30 plus points written all over it. But Jared sneaks away with the victory, beating Juan 111.8 to 107.4. So he goes 1-1, and Juan, an orange crushing loss, drops to 0-2. We move on to the next game on the tally. Gosue, Dak for MVP, squaring up against defending champion Jordan. Auto draft. It's not often you throw a 91-yard pass play and it doesn't end in a touchdown, but that's what happened to Jalen Hurts, coming up short in every way possible this week. Down from his 30-plus point performance last week, he puts up 190 yards, has a rushing touchdown for a modest 19.9 points. Jordan, though, also had Run CMC, the Great White Hype, Christian McCaffrey, 72 yards, gets his first touchdown of the young season and puts in 19.7 points. And Jordan also had running back Najee Harris from Pittsburgh, 38 yards, and this receiving touchdown for 14.1 points. But Gosue has a Harris of his own at running back, Damian Harris from the Patriots. He goes for 62 yards and this touchdown for 12.4 points. And you tell me which Harris had the better touchdown. I say Damian Harris. That individual effort is off the charts. Gosue also has Kyler Murray. This is reminding me of Josh Allen last year, where he had a breakout first 4 weeks, and Kyler Murray well on his way to matching that. 400 yards, 4 total touchdowns, 2 interceptions for 40.1 points. Jordan with no shortage of firepower. Both of receivers scored touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 60 yards, a touchdown for 12 points. And Calvin Ridley, 7 receptions, 63 yards, and a touchdown for 12.3 points. But Gosue has Tyler Lockett, who outclassed them both. Oh, he's living his best life. Another absurd day from the chump. 8 receptions, 178 yards, and a touchdown for 23.8 points. Gosue also has Travis Kelce. Jesus Christ, this guy. 7 receptions, 109 yards, a touchdown. Doing it the hard way this week for the touchdown, but that was nice. Travis Kelce, 16.9 points. And just when Gosue starts to pull away, Jordan has the homer defense. The Patriots, they come up big. Bill Belichick versus a rookie quarterback. It's outlawed in most states, but not up in the New England area. The Patriots, 4 interceptions, only allow 6 points and put in 20.3 points for the defending champ. Going into Monday night, Gosue led by 8 points. It was 120 to 112. He had Aaron Jones. Jordan had tight end TJ Hawkinson from Detroit. Aaron Jones put the football game away early and then put an exclamation point at the end of the night. One of the best nights of his career. Hawkinson didn't stand a chance. Aaron Jones, 67 rushing yards, 4 total touchdowns for 35.5 points. Gosue showing no respect to the champ. He spots him 124 points and then scores 154 of his own. Gosue tearing up the LVFL in his first 2 games, a blazing 2-0 to start for Gosue. Dak for MVP. Defending champion Jordan auto draft gets his first loss of the season and drops to 1-1. Pride is before a crash. It was the Commission's Tampa Bay Champions versus Joey and his Viking Nation. Despite the troll, this was actually a close game. Joey had all Vikings all day. Dalvin Cook, he's got 131 yards for 14.8 points. Justin Jefferson, the rookie phenom from last year, continues it this year. Another game with a touchdown, 65 yards for 12.5 points. And Adam Thielen, 6 receptions, 39 yards, and he also finds a touchdown this week, 9.9 points. Peter had very little in the way of receivers. Keenan Allen led the way with 10.8 points. But who needs receivers when you have the GOAT, Tom Brady? He tees off on the Atlanta Falcons again. 276 yards, 5 touchdowns, 36.8 points for the GOAT. Joey, though he had no slouch at quarterback himself, Russell Wilson against the Tennessee Titans defense goes for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns in that thrilling overtime game, 23.8 points for Russell Wilson. But in that same game, the commish had King Derrick Henry eating the Seattle Seahawks alive in the second half of that game. 182 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, 41.7 points for King Henry. Joey, though, kept it close with that Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense. They came on strong late in the game, especially in that fourth quarter against the Falcons. 2 pick sixes, both by Mike Edwards, the Tampa Bay defense. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 25 points against. Got Joey 20.1 points. Peter with a 15-point lead heading into Sunday night. Joey had Tyson Williams, running back for the Ravens, and Peter had Robert Tonyan, second cousin to Jay Sternberger, who only scored 0.8 points last week, so this game was by no means over. Tyson Williams making me nervous. He was racking up points until this play, fumbling it as he's going into the end zone, picked up by his teammate for the touchdown. And who knows how this game goes. If Tyson Williams gets that touchdown, he would finish the game with only 9.3 points. There was still Robert Tonyan for Peter on Monday night, but that didn't figure into this one. Joey in person to see the Vikings lose to the Cardinals, and he has a front row seat to see what happens when you poke the Tampa Bay Champions. Sorry, Joey, but I gotta dish it out while I can. Lord knows you wouldn't miss an opportunity to take a stab at people. Peter takes this matchup 124.5 to 107.4 and improves to 2-0, and Joey drops his first game of this season and goes 1-1. The next game on the chopping block is Nick and his Killer Bees versus Brant and the Las Vegas Aces. It was a slow start for Nick on Thursday night. Antonio Gibson from the Washington Redskins against the New York Giants gets only 7.3 points for his 69 yards. But Nick picked it up on Sunday, however. His receiving core coming through for him. DeAndre Hopkins, D-Hop, he had 4 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown for 11.4 points. And Brandon Cooks with Tyrod Taylor, who would have thunk it. Brandon Cooks, 9 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown for 13.8 points. For Brant, he had Dak Prescott, and it was yuck. 237 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 5.1 points. Jamar Chase, however, hooking up with Joe Burrow from his alma mater days. Only 2 receptions, but they went for 54 yards, and one of those was a touchdown. 11.4 points for Jamar Chase. Nick countered with Chris Carson from Seattle. Only 30 yards, but he got 2 touchdowns for 15.1 points. Nick was sitting pretty good with the rest of Brant's offensive players logging in less than 7 points. But it was the defense and special teams unit that came through for Brant. The Bills do a number on Miami. And if you saw the game, Miami didn't help themselves much out either. The Bills, 1 interception, 2 fumble recoveries, the shutout. And that's what really got to the bulk of those defensive points, the shutout. That's 15 points right there. They totaled 27.6 points for the Buffalo defense and special teams. And Brant also had Las Vegas' own Daniel Carson, place kicker. He goes 4 for 4 for field goals, 2 for 2 for extra points, 17 points from the kicking spot. That would give Brant a 25-point lead. On Sunday night, Nick had Patrick rolling with my homies. You know he's good for 25-plus points every week. And on Sunday night, he throws 343 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception for 26.5 points, giving Nick a 1-point lead. Brant had one more ace up his sleeve, no pun intended. Jamal Williams, running back for the Detroit Lions on Monday night. He only needed 11 yards. At the end of the first quarter, he still didn't have enough yards, as long as it didn't turn into a shootout. Oh, it turns into a shootout. but he would get his yardage midway through the second quarter, and throughout the game barely enough to win. Brant comes out on top 96.8 to Nick's 94.1. Brant, you had no business winning this game, but what are you going to do? You take it and run. Heck, I would. No shame in that. Nick, another bad break this week. That Bills defense and the kicker for Las Vegas did you in. So Brent rebounds from last week's loss, goes 1-1, and Nick, another tough loss. He starts out 0-2. We go to the final game on the tally. It was Pedro, I See Red People, up against his familia, the buzzsaw that is Josue. And all you gotta know about this game is this. The Kansas City Chiefs scored 35 points, and Tyreek Hill is held to 14 yards. That just says it all there for this week, Pedro. Justin Herbert, 13.3 points. Have NFL defenses figured him out? Your lone bright spot, Darrell Henderson Jr. from the Rams, 53 yards, a touchdown for 14.2 points. And Josue, he kept it rolling with Chris Godwin, 4 receptions, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Fellow teammate Rob Gronkowski, 4 receptions, 39 yards, 2 more touchdowns this week. He had 2 last week for 15.9 points. And Cooper Kupp, living the white boy's dream, living in Southern California, playing on a Super Bowl contending team, second ranked wide receiver in the NFL. Oh, Cooper Kupp, 9 receptions, 163 yards, 2 more touchdowns, 27.8 points from the slot receiver. It was all Raider Nation. Chief with another tough loss in week 2. He starts off the season 0-2 and runner-up from last year's league, Josue. He seems to be back in that form. He starts off the season 2-0. There you have it. Week 2 in the books. 4 out of the 5 games came down to Monday night, with some with more drama than others. But it always makes it a fun week when you got that many games being decided on Monday night. Brant bounces back from his loss in week 1 and notches his first win here in the LVFL, so congratulations to him. Josue continues to tear through the league. He's off to a blazing start at 2-0. Juan and Nick, what can I say? It's going to happen to all of us sooner or later this season. That's just the way it goes in fantasy football. So we'll end week 2 by handing out some cheese. Our offensive player of the week, King Derrick Henry, 182 rushing yards, 55 yards through the air. That's a career high. 3 touchdowns, 41.7 points for King Henry. He had 170 plus yards of that rushing total in the second half. Tennessee will just pound and pound the ball. And by the third and fourth quarter, the last person these linebackers and defensive backs want to see is Derrick Henry. This guy is a tree. King Derrick Henry, our offensive player of the week. Our offensive snub of the week goes to Pedro. He had Henry Ruggs III on the bench, 3 receptions, 113 yards, 1 touchdown for 17.9 points. Oh, Pedro started Tyreek Hill 2.9 points and Jarvis Landry 0.9 and has 17.9 points on the bench. It wouldn't have made a difference this week, but at least you would have saved some face. Henry Ruggs III, the snub of the week. And Pete's troll of the week this time goes to the Atlanta Falcons. You say 28-3 and everybody in the room knows what you're talking about. Tom Brady leading a 25-point comeback in the Super Bowl. That Atlanta offense took a major dump in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter. The GOAT would not let that happen to his team, not on his watch. In fact, we'd be more familiar with a different set of numbers, 58-3. That would have elicited this response from Bill Belichick. He would have gotten fined and suspended had Tom Brady been an Atlanta Falcon. We move on to week 3. Hopefully there'll be plenty of close games like this week. That'll keep us glued to our seats watching until Monday night. But for now, it's time to sign off. This is The Cap, the flagship podcast of the LVFL. And to everybody out there in the LVFL universe, we say good night from league officers.